Climate change is becoming more and more of an issue with things like unpredictable temperature and air pollution, and we can see those impacts on our health today.
That's Sammy Lowe. He's a research lead with the Climate, Health and Environment Epidemiology Research Group at the University of Alberta.
Even in a city as relatively small as Edmonton, we see a lot of variability in terms of the exposure and the sensitivity and the adaptive capacity across the city.
The risk, he says, could depend on where you call home.
It's really going to vary depending on where you live in the city.
There's nothing like that has been done before.
Shelby Yamamoto is an environmental epidemiologist and professor at the university. She says her team scoured over health, demographic, and environmental data.
We're not trying to single out any of these neighborhoods. What we're trying to do is give a sense of which neighborhoods could we potentially target earlier.
The team defines vulnerability as having three parts: exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity. Exposure looks at the level of air pollutants, heat, and precipitation. Sensitivity depends on the demographics. If the population is older or much younger, that community is at higher risk. But vulnerability can be reduced if a neighborhood scores high on adaptive capacity, which includes access to cooling centers and health clinics, and environmental factors like the proximity of green spaces and bodies of water. We looked at 2 Edmonton neighborhoods, starting downtown, which scored high on adaptive capacity.
The River Valley is actually one of those main reasons. So we have this big body of water as well as all of this kind of greenness and growth in really close proximity to where these people are living downtown.
Lowe says that neighborhood is very active and walkable and has several medical clinics within its small radius. One neighborhood that isn't quite as walkable is Summerside, a suburb in South Edmonton.
So that's pretty common in newer areas, especially suburban areas that are often designed to be a lot more car-friendly and maybe don't have as up-to-date transit coverage.
Lowe says this neighborhood is home to older folks and young families with kids who are more sensitive to climate change. And the lawns, he says, don't offer much relief from heat.
A well-manicured suburban lawn, while it can look quite lovely, doesn't really do much to mitigate your health because we're really looking at kind of those bigger trees and those structures that can provide the shade and the cooling.
The city has expressed interest in the project, saying identifying climate risks and vulnerabilities unique to any specific community may be valuable in developing localized climate resilience plans. For now, the map is static, capturing historic trends, but Yamamoto hopes to develop a map that changes day to day.
What we're hoping to do is to develop it into something that can be a little bit more dynamic, more like a surveillance kind of approach in which the data is regularly updated.
The team says overall, Edmonton is doing pretty good. And with research like this, they say the city can continue to adapt as the climate continues to change. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Edmonton.